Hello, Stephanie Joy with All Things Social Security. We had a Q&A with a short little clip discussion on a particular topic. So I'm going to attach it for you here. It might be something that you're interested in if you clicked on this header. And following that, we're going to go through it a little bit more. So just wanted to give you the heads up. This is where it started from, and then we'll have the bigger discussion right after. All right, chat with you later. Bye-bye. This is Mephisto. How do you decide when to submit a client's SSD application? Is it as soon as possible, or is there a strategy? There's definitely a strategy. You must have watched some videos, huh? Yeah. Sometimes it's ASAP. It depends where they are at in the whole process of various things, whether it's working, not working, their medical records, what kind of impairment they have. Is it the kind that is clear cut versus progressive? Were they able to work with it all this time when it was like this as it is now, so that they should have more time after they stop working to go to the doctors more, and it'll build that evidence to help show, yeah, it was different before I stopped working. It was getting bad, but now it's really bad because you were able to work when it was kind of bad. So it wasn't bad enough. And so, seeing if there's an evidence change in that, that's how it's a whole review. I mean, it's a multi aspect discussion of what would be better for somebody for their case. It's particularly important, I think, if they only have one bite of the apple left. You got to make your best shot. You don't want to be rushing and trigger happy on an application when it's going to mean you're going to defeat and destroy any chance of winning on initial. And remember, if you lose on initial, there is a chance you win on recon, but the chances are much less. So you may as well just say, I'm going to just have to sit here with my thumb up my butt so I can go to hearing. But never sit there with your thumb up your butt, because you need to be building that evidence for the judge. Because if he sees the same thing that the under levels saw, it's probably going to be another denial. You're going to be in that percentage that's denied because you didn't do all the things you could do. And I don't mean you, of course. I mean generally. Hey, so if the subject matter of the video you just listened to is of interest and you want more on it, stay tuned. Here's another one about the same topic, but a little bit different. Bye now. There is something called a protective filings. If you are at 12 months and you know that you might be a little slow on this, maybe you're trying to get an attorney can get your protective filing in a flash, 2 minutes on the phone, but you can get it yourself also by going to the SSA site and starting the application. Just don't go past the point where you get the reentry number. Not if you're going to have an attorney who's going to make sure that's done right. So you can get the protective filing, and it gives you 6 months to get all the nuts and bolts in there. Good afternoon. Okay, what happens if you have not filed yet for Social Security disability, but you've been out of work a year because of your medical problems? Do you have a reason for waiting to file? There can be a reason to wait to file for some people. For others, not so much. And I think it's important that you have a strategy of learning when you're going to appeal and why at a certain time versus another. If you are 12 months out from when you stopped working, and you, in your mind, stopped working because you were having serious difficulties performing your job, you've got another few months to go before your delay in filing will cause some of your potential back benefit months of when you say you were disabled to not be owed to you, even if you win. That's because there is that retroactive limitation for Social Security disability, that they do not pay you more than 12 months of monthly benefits when you were disabled that precede the date of your application. So because there is a 5-month waiting period that nobody likes, it's a necessity, you in theory have more than 12 months, and you have generally 17 months in which to screw around or not file, or to feel things out. Maybe you had a temporary disability that you thought would be temporary. When I mean temporary, I mean just a few months, and now it's pushing a year. I think if it's pushing a year, even though you won't start losing for another 5 months, it takes time to get a properly prepared application together. It's also the perfect time to also know that right after you apply, you're going to have demands for certain reports due right after, and they are time consuming, and they need to be really well vetted to make sure you don't permanently have a report in your file that is going to haunt you through your ALJ hearing if you have to go to one. So getting some of this stuff done earlier rather than later can prevent you from surpassing that 17-month period without having filed. And if you do that, every month you don't file, you are losing a potential month of back benefits that you would have gotten. Okay. It's a good time to point out, however, that there is something called a protective filing. So If you are at 12 months and you know that you might be a little slow on this, maybe you're trying to get an attorney, an attorney can get your protective filing in a flash, 2 minutes on the phone, but you can get it yourself also by going to the SSA site and starting the application. Just don't go past the point where you get the reentry number. Not if you're going to have an attorney who's going to make sure that's done right. So you can get the protective filing, and it gives you 6 months to get all the nuts and bolts in there. So, but I would urge you to not finish it at that time if you plan on getting a representative who, if they actually help you apply, which I would hope so, and do it right, they would be the one completing that for you after, gathering your information. So the protective filing is extremely helpful. We use it all the time, not every case, but all the time generally. Every week there's going to be protective filings going out. The nice thing about a protective filing is if in the meantime you do recover and you do go back to work and you're doing just fine, you can let that protective filing expire and it's no harm, no foul. But if you don't get it and then you wish you did, you will be losing all those months that you delayed on. I have a lot of people who have done that. I have people who we've gotten protective filings for and they still haven't gotten the information back, maybe for whatever reason. Some people are big procrastinators. Some think they've recovered, and I applaud them on that. So they don't get, for whatever reason, usually it's a procrastinator, so don't get the information back. The protective filing expires and they do lose those back benefits. It's just, one of the curses of procrastination. It'll hit them in the wallet. So we do try to nag them a little bit to speed it up, but occasionally they slip through because they just can't get to it. If you are a procrastinator, it never hurts to have a trusted, we call it a liaison, but a trusted person who helps keep you on the ball. Getting through everything you need to get through is particularly true if you're on your own, of course, but it's also helpful when you're working with a representative if you are the type of person that does not keep up. If you procrastinate, if you don't communicate much, having a more anal person in your court near you that can help you look at mail, if you get mail, help you check those emails for information you have to be providing, all that kind of good stuff. So anyway, if you are a year out from working and it was due to medical reasons, I really think you should give some concerted consideration to what you're doing so you don't run into this problem. You're going to regret it later if you lose 6 months of benefits. Again, that could be $10,000 that you just, lost just because you procrastinated. All right. Yeah. Contact a representative, contact an attorney. If you're the type that procrastinates that much, you definitely need a representative. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That might be the avenue that will help you. But having a liaison at home doesn't hurt either. I love it when my clients have that. I'm always asking about it. There's some that don't need it at all, but there are some that definitely do, and it's really helpful. And it makes their case go much faster. Okay, guys, that's enough for tonight. I'm going to go watch a ball game. Bye now.